Good morning, dear Dharma friends. It's now again. Or is it still now? My children got really sick of their father's Buddhist responses to things. What time is it, Dad? Why, it's now. After the 300th time, I think it got old for them. But now I'm getting old for them. That's a different thing altogether. So here we are. I'm Robert Beatty, or so I think. And I am coming to you from a little cabin in my backyard in Portland, Oregon. And this is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. Hello to those of you on Facebook and YouTube. So, another remarkably sunny day. The garden's going nuts. Plants that were languishing are suddenly growing an inch or two a day. Quite something. Oh, while I think of it, Jessica, I've got hoses going. I'll send you an email. I get some watering happening. I think everything's taken care of except a couple of those big pot sort of things. Out in the pot orchard. The pot farm. Not. So, a very short reading from Thich Nhat Hanh this morning. Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live fully in each moment and to look at all beings with eyes of compassion. Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live fully in each moment, and I look at all beings with eyes of compassion. And I forgot to push the record button.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. So let us remind ourselves of the refuges. By crashing my guitar around a little bit in my tiny space here. Let's take a moment to look around at these faces, to meet each face with compassion. To be awake to the preciousness of every encounter. Whether it's in person or with pixels on a screen. Seeing. Seeing and knowing the preciousness of each person here. Please join me if you wish. But think about the words. What does it really mean? I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. I take refuge in being awake, in knowing what's happening, in being mindful. I take refuge in the realizations of impermanence, of dukkha, of anatta. I take refuge in coming to understand the Four Noble Truths. I take refuge in the precepts. The Dharma. And I take refuge in the beautiful Sangha. We are profoundly affected by the people we hang around with. By their energy, by the way they talk, by the things they believe. So the choice of our companions is really important. One of the PIMC as a building has been around now for a while. We purchased the building in January of 2004. I went to the title company with a check for $475,000 to buy the center. That was kind of exciting. I have a picture of it. I'd been building the community since 1979. But one of the conscious reasons for getting a building and creating a place to meet was the development of Sangha. So we could have friends who are Dharma people. So here we are, practicing together again, or still. Refuge in the Sangha. Companions on the journey. So please let us sit. Comfortably upright. What at the beginning seems a little odd to sit and do nothing can become one of the most comforting gestures of a lifetime. We might also call to mind, as we settle in, some thoughts of gratitude. The human mind easily goes, and probably for survival reasons, it goes to the lacks, to the things that are lacking, to the inadequacies. But think of the ways in which your glass is 7/8 full. The incredible privilege of a warm place to sleep, stable income, fresh vegetables, running water in your own house, flushing toilets, health to some degree or another, health care when needed. Some of us even have our own car. Some of us even have bank accounts and investments. Friends, pets, a warm shower whenever you want it. Bask in this incredible good fortune. Let's make use of it. Let's make use of it to train this heart-mind, this living process. Well, we can relax because we have so much security. Relative security, of course. And we also might remember gratitude for the lineage all the way from the Buddha that brings us these teachings. Imagine finding a path that leads to the reduction of and elimination of suffering. That leads to us being able to accept life on its own terms. And so let us come home now to this body that sits and breathes. Let us practice being here now, one breath at a time, one thought at a time. Breathing in and breathing out. It is useful to clarify, to know. My intention is to bring awareness to the sensations of breathing in and breathing out. And perhaps even more broadly than that, to inhabit the body. To notice the life of the hands and the feet, the legs, the shoulders and arms, to notice, receive the life of the face and the scalp, the lips. And within the context of all these sensations, there's breathing in and breathing out. So there's a body that sits here and it breathes. And there is also all the activity of mind. The thinking, the planning, the worrying. The remembering. The storytelling. The rehashing of old conversations. Please let's not make enemies of any of these. War doesn't help. Struggle doesn't help much either. But awareness, wisdom, love, compassion, now those have a huge impact. So we sit, awaken to the fact of the mind wandering. Notice the life of the body. Come home. Be awake. It's such a relief to have nothing to do except be here. Practicing not so that sometime in the future I can have some particular experience. Not to get somewhere or get rid of something or achieve something, but to finally just get to be this in this moment. This could be a moment of great concentration or of almost no concentration. It could be a mind in great ease or turmoil. The body could be comfortably warm, balanced between hot and cold, or it could be cold, or the parts of it could be cold, or warm, or hot. There could be a very clear sense of purpose or confusion. From Ajahn Chah we heard the elegant teaching to bring your practice into perfect balance in any moment. Simply remember, this moment is like this. Oh, look, here is my personality striving to get somewhere, striving to change something. Now there is great ease. Now there is comparing with what happened yesterday. And here's the breath coming and going. To meditate in this way is a true revolutionary act. It is an act of extreme kindness. It is an act of compassion. It is an act that inevitably is for the benefit of all beings. Because the light of awareness illuminates greed, hatred, and delusion, the forces that run the world of suffering. Awakening is the practice of peace. And it's not something that we do sometime in the future. It's not some grand event. It's right here. It's now, this morning, today. Please let us be wonderfully intimate with the coming and going of the breath, this blessing of life. Please let us be radically accepting of what the personality presents itself as. Let's notice how it happens that out of the depths of some unconscious wandering mind, some emotional storm, some inner conversation of self-justification or self-hatred, quite spontaneously there is awakeness, there is knowing. And this knowing is sometimes, well, I guess always, radically discontinuous with the wandering mind. It's awake. all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. "24 hours, a new day. May I greet every being. May I see every being through eyes of compassion." Thank you for being here, Jim Dalton. Fine friend of a lifetime. Thank you to each of you for being here. These mornings together over more than a year now have really changed me. Very grateful. Announcement-wise, Doug Pullen is teaching from tomorrow morning from 9 till 2 tomorrow day. And Sunday night, Candle is on for her mindfulness and metta practice. And then the ritual goes on. Jim is on Monday night next week and every night of the week except Tuesday. So there's lots to do. There's lots of support to have for practice at PIMC. So I think that's all I want to say. Have you something you'd like to say or share? Ooh, this body's a lot stiffer than it used to be. Quite remarkable. I asked my body worker, why is it that my body's getting stiff? And he said, well, you're getting old. And the blood supply diminishes and the tissues dry out. And I said, I think that's enough. I don't want to hear anymore.
Hi, Robert. This is Vivek. Can you hear me?
Hello, Vivek. Greetings.
Greetings. I've been really enjoying the morning sits for the last year. Thank you so much.
I'm glad.
Your mentioning of the center this morning really sparked for me a thought about the collective and the individual. And it was kind of going through my mind as I was sitting this morning, and I was thinking about the energy that's created when a group of people sit together in a space like the center, and as opposed to me sitting quietly in my living room here at home. And just curious, if I'm sure you've thought about this and spent a lot of time maybe even talking about it, but your thoughts about like the I often found that I have gone a little bit deeper when I sit collectively with a group as opposed to sitting individually. I tend to maybe get a little more distracted, and I don't know if there's anything there that um, you could share about kind of what your experience has been in that kind of collective experience of being together, and the depth of awakeness, or the, like you were saying today, the radical I don't remember the term, radical like discontinuousness of the awakeness, and I can sustain it longer when I'm with a group of people, I've noticed. And it's been a long time since I've sat with a group of people. Nevertheless, just curious your thoughts about that.
Well, I think it's no doubt that my experience has been that a group has a big effect. And being alone in practice has a big effect. And developing the capacity to be free in every context is the goal, is the direction. And so we can use a group for inspiration and sometimes exploring new territory that we might not get to without the group. And then being solitary, we get to explore the territory we might not get to if we were in a group. And so it really is a case of both and, I think. And sometimes, just it's so funny watching the mind. The thought arose, we need each other. Before that was the thought, well, there are those times when life is in such chaos, when the suffering is so high. Without a group, chances are you wouldn't even stop. You'd just keep going, distracting. And so having a group and having a regular commitment to a group, showing up even when you don't want to. Someone shared recently, just the other day, that she'd been having, it had been very hard to practice. And then she kept coming to the group. And lo and behold, it moved past. She was able to integrate that. But then the thing that made me laugh, that popped to mind, was a quote from A. Milne from Winnie the Pooh. My favorite quote from Winnie the Pooh. Piglet sidled up to Pooh and said, "Pooh?" "What?" said Pooh. "Oh, nothing. I just wanted to be sure of you." We need each other. And so sometimes when one wouldn't ever stop, you just continue going into one's intoxication of various kinds and overproduction and so on, overworking, trying to consume one's way to happiness. Sometimes it's wonderful to have a group to take refuge in a way. It's the Sangha. Just like, I'm here. I'm with my people. I'm with my community. And then we can rest in that. And then other times, it's really important that we develop our capacity to be alone and to go deep alone. So it's really a case of both and.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Hey Robert, it's Neil.
Hi, Neil. Can you hold on just a second? I just had another thought that might be useful to say, which is in this inward journey, some of the terrain which we are required to travel through, some of the inner experiences, I have found there's no way I would have succeeded without a group, without a teacher, and in some cases, even without a hand to hold. As I was working my way through the trauma of my early childhood and infancy, there were some places of great darkness and anguish that I've had the benefit of working with really fine therapists. And I've had Ruth Dennison. I had Ruth Dennison as my teacher for 45 years. But to be accompanied through some dark places is really helpful. To go to one's meditation teacher and to say, "This is awful," I can hardly bear this. This is awful, and to have them say, "Well, it's perfectly safe. I'm here if you need me. Keep sitting." Stretch your sittings out. Sit for a couple of hours this afternoon. But to have someone there with you who will say, this isn't pathological, this isn't bad and wrong, this is the human condition, and you're really in the middle of it, so don't stop. That's very helpful. Where'd you go? Neil, there you are.
I was just gonna, like, along this line of thought. There's this movie, and there's this scene in the film. There's a jiu-jitsu teacher, and he's sitting with a new student, an adult woman, and they're just kind of sitting. And she says to him, "Are we supposed to be meditating right now?" And he just says, "No." And then eventually he says something about it's about wanting to leave the outside, which I guess, like, from a meditation perspective, isn't exactly what we're doing. But it was interesting to me the way it was phrased in the movie. And when I heard your response to the last question, it made me think of that.
Thank you.
Good morning, Robert. It's Kathy.
Hello, Kathy.
So, as I've been sitting lately, I've been noticing that it seems like my favorite plaything is planning. When I find myself going off track. And so today, when that was happening, and I think I've had other awarenesses of this before, but I just came to understand for myself anyway that, and it's fun stuff mostly, and then stuff like, oh, I don't want to forget that, that kind of thing on my projects or whatever I'm working on. But I realized that it's actually I believe it's a form of anxiety to be planning, even when it's fun, because there's a little bit of, sparkly energy around it that actually I believe is anxiety. And I know that that is one of the things that I have layers and layers and layers of stuff in life. So I've shed a lot of anxiety in my life and I understand about, meeting life on life's terms, which I do to one degree or another in a given situation. And I'm much more consciously aware of my personality acting in the world. But I'm just kind of noticing that I think I use anxiety quite a lot. And I think it's kind of almost like a go-to drug for me. And so I just was wondering if you had anything that you could offer on that or whatever else that sparks.
Okay. Well, I have a practice suggestion, which may seem trivial, but is really potent. That rather than thinking of it that I do this and I use anxiety, simply noticing, anxiety. And my mind convert to the mind. That it's like you're pulling on your scientist hat and watching it. And I would say also congratulations for this, that you're having insight into the nature of the anxious mind. And that it creates futures a lot. Some of us specialize in the future. Some of us specialize in the past. I'm a recovering maudlin. What's the word? Oh, there's a good word for that. Oh, I don't think it's going to come. But I'm the kind of, this personality is the kind of personality who would sit on Christmas Eve alone by the Christmas tree when everything's fine, but then gets sad remembering Christmases past. and so I lived, and it has been, it still is difficult for me to plan for the future. Committing to things in the future is still very difficult for me. I have to make an effort to do it. And so how wonderful you have that. And you might, in your practice, simply notice planning. Thank you for sharing. Back to here.
I actually do that to a degree, and then, I do it for a little while, and then I get lost in it again, and then I come back, planning, and I tell myself, I said, just let that be, and if it's important, it'll come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but to not to go to war with it. It's just a structure in the mind that, and the capacity to create fantasied futures and communicate with each other about them and plan for it is what makes human beings so dangerously successful on the planet. Because we look forward to should we store some grain for the winter? Should we educate the children so they can have a job? And that it's that planning that it's hugely important for us. But learning how to use planning rather than planning using us is really a big deal. Thanks. Great example of how practice develops, isn't it? How these layers of our personality that we would have not known before, and then we start seeing them objectively. It's quite cool. Gets more and more interesting in my experience. I just thought of the statement of the narcissistic meditator. I'm the most interesting person I've ever met. Of course, I'm the one I know the best and can see how crazy he is. Oh dear. I was in a cult for 5 years. A really true cult. Early in my practice, a guy named Sujata, and I'm very grateful to him because I learned a ton. But getting out was very difficult, very difficult. I talked with a deprogrammer, an exit counselor at one point, and it was leaving that cult was the most painful thing I ever did. I was helped by my teacher Manindra, and very useful because I've helped a lot of people out. But 3 or 4 or 5 years later, I was still very fragile in a way, where I thought I was. And I decided I would experiment one day. I was coming home from downtown, walking, and I went by the Scientology office. And I went in to see, and it was very frightening. I went in to see, could I encounter one of those Scientology people and not get hooked? And it was a very useful moment because I went in and I was so far from getting hooked. I mean, I could see very clearly what he was doing. He was wanting me to reveal something painful about myself so that he could then point out how Scientology could help me. But it was all transparent to me because I'd been him. I was him. And I I heard myself saying, "Aren't I the most interesting person you've ever met?" And just being completely narcissistic. And he never even asked me for my name or phone number. But it wasn't kind on my part, but it was important for me to discover that I didn't need to be afraid of being swept back into another cult, at least that one. Oh dear. It was a moment of feeling quite victorious in having rescued myself from cult vulnerability. I didn't so much rescue myself, I had great help. Great help. I'm feeling such pleasure at your presence this morning. Looking from picture to picture, it's so sweet right now.
Robert?
Hello, Hadley.
Hi. My personality wants to always get better, and I'm just looking at what the heck I'm doing with meditation practice. And I love things like the 7 factors of awakening because I feel like when they occur for me, they just fit into that, what Kathy was saying, the program I run for myself, that I want to get better, or I want this to show up like
Do
this
you
really
run it for
special thing
yourself?
that
Do
Pardon?
you run it for yourself, or does it just run?
Definitely both of those things.
Are you
'Cause
sure
I-
it's both?
No, I am not sure. That's why I'm laughing.
There
Because I
is
like
no
to
you.
think. Okay.
It runs itself.
And I just want to say that when certain factors arise in my practice, I'm like so sure that this is the best thing I could be doing in my world, and it's a me doing it thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that brings up faith. Faith in the practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to initiate more conversation. So I want us to be a cult and be bubbly, talking about how great our concentration is and how all the 7 factors are arising for us, and how we can support each other in that. I have a desire for that community practice.
Which is
It's awkward.
different from becoming a cult, but yeah, yes.
It's so awkward to talk about the tangible benefits of this practice, because that's kind of what the world wants me to do. You do things that are beneficial, and it's lovely how mindfulness has risen to in my world, a cultural conversation, and it's quite different from when I started, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, nobody knew about mindfulness. Right. We're on the leading edge of the wave, Hadley.
Okay.
We are.
Yeah.
I went around, I don't know how long ago it was, 40 years ago. 40 years at least. I went around, I had a friend or two who introduced me to their friends who were doctors, and I went around to physicians and said, you could refer people to me and I could teach them to meditate and lower their stress levels and so on. And they simply didn't get it. I could have been speaking Italian or Greek or something. And there was one doctor, a Dr. Sane, an Indian doctor, who got it immediately, but he was already teaching his patients to meditate. And then along came John Kabat-Zinn and mindfulness-based stress reduction, but I was quite unsuccessful at that. But now everyone and their brother and sister and dog is teaching mindfulness. It's quite something. It's good.
And to one more thing I wanted to say, I wanted to speak to everyone here. We have a library at PIMC called the Barking Dog Library. And if you are doing anything, one useful thing to do is to go through all your books that you are so dearly loving, that you've read through the years, through your life, and see if you want to let go of any and donate them to the Barking Dog Library. Please do that. We're not open yet, but I foresee that coming. Do you have anything to say about that, Robert?
Oh yeah, it's on the way. It'll be open in September when we open. Yep, and it's got a fancy new system for checking out books, and I think there's even going to be an online list of all the books. Yep. And as you said, I think, Had, back in the old days, if you donate your books to the library, you'll always know where they are.
And there's
Will there be extended checkout for the Canadians?
Yes, of course.
Nice.
How about this? We'll mail you any book you order. That's a big offer.
That'd be fantastic.
Don't you think that's a good idea?
One of my biggest problems is that I have too many books, and so I'm obsessed about where am I going to put more bookshelves.
Oh, donate them to PIMC.
No, I haven't read them yet.
I haven't read them yet. I got it. A lot of our duplicates, I don't know where they've been going, but Avi and Gregory have been donating books to the prisons, I think. It's a little complicated with the prisons, but maybe it's somewhere else too. But with the prisons, they only accept new books because they want them to come from the publisher, so they don't need to worry about contraband being in them. But anyway, yeah. Well, I have grandson. Go ahead, Eileen.
Hi, Robert. It's Eileen. Quick question. I read all the details of your email about with the center, but what I'm wondering is there going to be any opportunity in the interim, to have outdoor activities where people get together?
Possibly.
At a park or something?
There's an issue about, at a park. Oh. Well, that's an idea. Huh. That's a good idea. Let me take it under advisement, and why don't we make something happen? We could do something like that. Yeah.
Great.
The center itself is not going to be very habitable. The restrooms will be closed and construction in the backyard and all that business. But it's a park. What a novel notion. A good idea. You want to help organize it?
I wouldn't mind, but I don't have a car, so I'm kind of limited. But sure. I mean, that way I could get to a neighborhood that I can actually get to because I'm downtown.
Yeah, that's
Washington Park or something.
I think that's a good idea. Maybe and maybe not particularly a meditation time, but a time just to meet and be social. Great. We could play football. Excuse me. Just got carried away for a moment. Well, friends, I have grandsons to go see this morning, so I'm going to want to leave fairly soon. Anybody sitting with something that you'd like to share before we go?
Yes. This is Nicole from Maine. I'm under that little flower face called A Creation. And I found out about this because I was originally in 12-step programs, which wasn't working. And through becoming aware of things, I quit doing that and to stay with the meditation, and somebody turned me on to this, which is now pretty much my go-to meditation place. But I had 9 months no weed on the first, and I've had 35 days of fearless eating and have lost like 10 pounds all through meditation, not having to go through what everybody tells me I have to, but becoming aware. But it's the compassion piece. And there is a whole section of people still who don't understand that because they're still thinking they have character defects. They still don't realize that the reason they act out is their trauma and that they need to not resist. I swear, every time I come on here, Robert, it's like, he says exactly what I need to hear, because it's like something that maybe I've been learning and then you put the cement on it. So I just want to say I'm very grateful, and I'm grateful too that you're talking about the gratitude piece or the appreciation, because you're right, my mind goes to all the things I don't have, and I have so much. And just that, like one day you were saying there's no bombs, that we live in a place where we don't have to worry about that. So it's taken me 9 months, but I'm finally starting to get appreciation and gratitude in my life, which I thought was completely gone. So
yay!
Yeah. So I just wanted to share, and thank you again.
Let's all have a celebratory hand swing. Yay! Fantastic. Wonderful. And you're in Maine?
Yes. And I actually found about this place from a lady in Tennessee. Isn't that weird? And she doesn't come here anymore, but I am hooked.
That's nice. Did you create that art piece, which is your emoji?
No, I've actually drawn it on my own, but it's called the Zen Tangle. So there's a whole bunch of them.
It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
Makes me think of fractals.
Yeah, it does kind of look like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to keep it from your grandkids, but that had been sitting with me while everybody was talking. I'm like, I just got to get it out. So,
Well, thank you. Are you familiar with refuge recovery?
Actually, I came in through Dharma recovery and then moved on. Somebody told me that maybe to get out of the more recovery-based stuff, and this has really set with me because it's just teaching me a whole different set of tools.
Great. Well, welcome aboard, my friend. Well, I'm going to a swimming pool this morning. At the Forest Grove pool, they have limited, you have to reserve your time, and there will be 5 other groups, I think, in this fairly large pool. And so I get to swim with my grandsons. It's a trip. Don't see much of them, so I'm looking forward to it. Well, shall we go out on the traditional form? Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. May all beings receive all blessings. So let us be mindful of the fact that we have a voice. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a wonderful, mindful day and a great weekend. I'll be teaching on Sunday morning at 10, and then back again on Monday. The following week, I'm going to be on retreat, and the other teachers at PIMC will be teaching. So, happy trails, friends. Have a wonderful, safe day. Bye-bye. Preparing for the leap to hyperspace.
Bye.
Thanks, Robert.
Great weekend.
Thank you.
Robert,
Bye, everybody.
Sangha.
Bye, all.
Live long and prosper, Hadley.
Bye. Bye, Lauren and Billy.
Lauren and Billy and someone else who I'm guessing might be related. Oh, I see.
Related. He's related.
Wow.
Yay, relations.
Well, you look very beautiful together. Look at that.
Bye, Tamara.
Who are you, the younger person?
I am BJ Robinson. I live in Anchorage, Alaska.
You do.
I do, and I'm. This is my dad's brother, and this is my dear, dear auntie.
I see. You mean there's more people that aren't in the picture?
I don't know if you can see Billy. Billy and Lauren are my auntie and uncle.
Oh, yeah. There. Okay, there. Yep. I see. There he is. Yep. Well, I bet you're having a nice time.
Yeah, it's really lovely here. I'm so grateful to get to visit family.
Yeah, it was a while, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm glad you can spend time with your grandsons.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Me too. Me too.
We have the rumbling horde approaching at the moment. They're on their way from Seattle.
Uh-huh.
The 3 kids. All good.
Well, off I go.
Have
Happy
fun.
day.
Have fun swimming.
Nice to meet you, BJ.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Tamara.
Bye, Tamara.
Bye, Tamara.
Goodbye.